What were the first steps to making this film?
Oh, the first steps to making a documentary about somebody else.
That they're not going to be in, by the way.
That they're not, right. There's a, deciding not to interview the director is interesting because it's like when you meet someone and you're like, oh, I might want to date that person, or I might want to get into business with that person. Like, what do? You ask about them, right? You ask friends, you ask colleagues, and there's kind of an innocence to the way that comes out, you know? Not knowing somebody and trying to find out, right? It's like that. So I really liked that angle. I'm a little off though. So with your question, so
did he supply you with whom to contact, or you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Quentin was very hands off. He said, "Yes, you have my blessing. If people call me, I'll tell them that I support it." Like that was as far as he was going to go. That was it. And they, I don't know if everybody called. It didn't come up all the time, but every now and then it did. Somebody would be like, "Oh yeah, I called him." Oh. So I knew it was happening. Sure. But there was no list. There was no, you should talk to these people. Now, when I did sit and talk, with, for example, Eli Roth, he's like, you have to talk to Scotty Spiegel. Like, Scotty Spiegel was not on my radar, right? And Scotty ends up being, like, he is so funny. He's so funny. He brought so much life to the documentary and great stories and great insight, and they have a long history together. So we found out that way, like who we should talk to or who, yeah. So it was very, it felt very pally, It was really nice. It was really nice.
And would you meet these people at their office, their home? Like, how did you have a designated spot to do the interview?
We did have a spot. Some people didn't want to go to Santa Monica, or some didn't want to leave their home. They'd prefer to do it at their home. Some people definitely were like, no, I don't want anybody in my home. I'm going to come to you. So it was whatever worked for them. That's what we did. And we made it as easy as possible.
Would you give them the questions beforehand?
Yes, if they asked for it. Some did, some didn't. It was very lax. It was very, however you want to do this, that's how we'll do it. Whatever you want me to not touch on, we won't touch on that. Nobody ever shut anything down, actually. That hasn't come up as I've been talking about this. Yeah, that was really interesting. There was no, I'm definitely not talking about this. There was one thing. I hope you don't ask me anything about his foot fetish.
I've seen that in the comments. That has definitely come up in the comments.
Yes. I think somebody was very upset that we didn't mention his foot fetish. But if they didn't talk about it, well, if they didn't bring that up, I wasn't going to.
Sure.
That I don't think that necessarily applies to his filmography, except he does have great shots of women's feet, I have to say.
Okay.
And have you seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood yet?
We have, yeah. It's great.
So with Qualley, is that her name?
Yes.
What's her
Margaret
first?
Qualley?
Margaret Qualley.
Annie McDowell's daughter,
when she's smashing her feet up against the windshield.
Yes.
I think it's adorable.
That is, right. And it lends to her
So
character,
cute.
too. And the awkwardness of the driving and, they're on the road or whatever. Yeah, that's true. That is a
Or
great
actually Mia Wallace, when she comes out in her little black capris and he shoots from her feet. When she walks in, she's about to turn on the recorder. It's right before she overdoses.
Oh,
but it's just a shot of her feet.
Interesting.
How she walks in and kind of smashes her feet into the carpet. It's pretty cool. For a fetish, it works for him.
Right, it's taste. That's PG-13
It works.
fetish, yeah. With your film on Richard Linklater, did you include him in the movie?
No.
You didn't? Okay, so this is the second film.
That's from the beginning. That has been how I wanted to present these.
Interesting. And why do you think that works? To not have the artist that is it too much? It's going to be too biased than to have the artist.
I think it's just a different take. There's plenty of documentaries that do. And we sit and we listen. Quentin actually said, how boring to listen to somebody else talk about themselves. I didn't feel that necessarily, because I love to listen to people talk about their filmography or their life or whatever. It's fascinating. But there's plenty of documentaries that do that. This I wanted to really be just fresh and fun, and again, it's like innocence. It's very open. It's opinions, it's experiences, and you learn through those, right? If somebody came in and said, yeah, but this is me, and it pulls the direction, it pulls it differently. So now you're like, oh, then we just have to listen to you, and you're the final word, right? You don't get all those. I wouldn't be able to sit and tell you how I am or who I am and why necessarily. But I bet my husband could, in a different way.
Sure.
Or my mom or my sister or colleagues or, it's just a very different, softer approach, I think.